You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another anime review. Today I'll be reviewing Initial D. Now, Initial D is a series about a guy named Takumi Fujiwara, a high school student who delivers tofu for his father to help their tofu shop. He also works at a gas station in his spare time with a group of his friends. His friends who work at this gas station have a street racing team called the Akina Speed Stars, and they get challenged by some legendary street racers. Well, Takumi's dad was also a legendary street racer, so they go and they try to get his help. But actually, Takumi's dad puts Takumi in the race without telling his friends about it. And the reason he does this is because he's been training Takumi to be one of the best street racers without even telling him that's what he's doing. So the way Takumi drives, he thinks he's just driving normally, but he's actually driving like a street racer, and he's driving really fast. So Takumi wins that first race. To make a long story short, he just continues to race and continues to rise to the top in his area. After he conquers his entire region, he joins up with a group called Project D to go and conquer the other regions around them. And they go on, he continues to rise to the top, and he continues to race against all sorts of different people. Like, he races a lot of people who play dirty, he races professional race drivers, he races racing school instructors, he races all sorts of different opponents with different challenges in each way. Different kinds of courses, and different obstacles on those courses. Other than Takumi, we do get more development for the other characters in Project D, as well as his other friends, who were the Akina Speed Stars. But the series was released in stages. The first two seasons were Stage 1 and 2. Stage 3 was a movie. Stage 4 was another anime season. Stage 5 was an anime season as well. Stage 6 was only 4 episodes long. I don't know if it was an OVA or released to TV. I honestly don't know on that one, but either way, it's incredibly short. There were also 2 extra stages, which give more development to the 2 characters, Mako, and I forget her partner's name. I think it was like Sayuki or something like that. The 2 women who run Impact Blue, the SIL 80 blue car that races down the Soy Mountain. But that's what the extra stages are about, is them. You can actually skip those without it affecting the plot too much. I watched the first of those. I haven't actually watched the second of those yet. But there are also 2 battle stages, which are just basically compilations of all the races from previous stages. There's also 3 anime movies that were made, known as New Initial D, Legends 1, 2, and 3. Which are just remakes of the various arcs in the series. I have not seen those yet either, but I may do a separate review in the future if I feel it merits it. If you did feel so inclined to watch the bonus stages and you wanted to watch all of the stages in order, here's the order that they are to be watched in. Stage 1, Stage 2, Extra Stage 1, Stage 3, Battle Stage 1, Stage 4, Extra Stage 2, Stage 5, Battle Stage 2, and finally, Stage 6. Stage 6, also known as just the final stage, is actually just one race. They reserved the final race for its own separate stage, so it's its own season. Again, it's only 4 episodes, but those 4 episodes are that one race, and it ties up the series. There was also a live-action movie, which I also have not seen. So, the way Takumi is in this series, he doesn't really care about driving or anything like that at the start. He just thinks he's driving normally. He doesn't have a whole lot of fun doing it. And he's just like, well, racing is, it's not my thing. But as he goes on, he starts to like it more and more because he realizes he's good at it. The first couple of stages 1 through 3 primarily, he's just, racing with the Akina Speed Stars, and he does conquer, in, the first stage, he completely conquers his own turf, and then, second stage and up, he begins to conquer other areas in his region, and then third stage continues with that before joining Project D in the 4th stage and conquering the rest of the areas around his region. Now, with each stage, the animation gets progressively better. Stage 1, the CGI for the actual races really is pretty bad. By the time you get to Stage 2, it starts to look pretty good. By the time you hit Stage 6, it's almost indistinguishable from the actual regular animation. It's really well synchronized together. Other than the racing, the story does have a lot of elements to it other than that. It has it has some romance to it to an extent, because, Takumi has this love interest at the beginning, and then he has another love interest later on. There's some development between them in those. There's also some love interest between his friend Ikutani and Mako from Impact Blue. But other than that, I went into this series not really caring about cars or anything like that. I thought street races are kind of a cool concept, just because the idea of going fast like that. Obviously, in practice, it's unsafe, and that's why they have a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, because it's unsafe and highly illegal. But in concept, I think it's really cool, and I think that a series based on it is a good idea, and I think that this series turned out way better than I expected. I primarily went into Initial D just wanting to watch it because of, the memes and the music around it, because it has a phenomenal soundtrack. Like, here, I'll play a couple clips here from the soundtrack. Just listen to these. I ended up getting hooked on this series way more than I ever thought I would. The characters were interesting, the relationships they had with each other were great, the races themselves were exciting and high octane. The development through it was pretty great. I won't spoil anything because I want people to actually watch through this series and see how it plays out themselves. One of the things that makes it really interesting is it kind of plays out like a fighting anime would, which it might sound a bit weird because it's just straight races. But, I mean, they always refer to the races as battles, first off. Other than that, the way that it goes, it's very hard to explain, but the races themselves are a lot like fights in, like, action fighting anime, and the build-up to them is very similar. I'm not really much of a car guy, and I absolutely loved this series. I can only imagine if you already liked cars going into this, you'd probably like this a lot more than I did. I still love this series. This is one of the favorite series I've watched within the last little bit. And I'd say it's definitely one that's worth checking out. In order to watch it, the first 2 stages as well as the 4th stage are on Hulu. Stage 3 you can buy on Blu-ray. And stage 5 and 6... you gotta import it, unfortunately. But I'd say it's still well worth doing. But they're still really fun to watch, and I highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye, and you have a great day.